Oh, Jen, well, it's a pleasure to be here, and I
Thank
must say
you.
it's even exciting to talk with you about your new book.
Well, thank you,
Um,
Angela.
the Gift in the Heart of Language, the Maternal Source of Meaning. Can you tell us what the main thing is you would like people to take away from this book?
Yeah, I think we're in a situation where we're all very distressed about how the world is going. We see governments that are corrupt, that everything is bought and sold, and the environment is degrading, and people are running away from wars that are useless and horrible, and that so much money has been spent on. So many people think that we're a species that really is suicidal and should be because we're acting in such a horrible way. So my book is about the fact that we're not really that. Basically, instead of being Homo sapiens or Homo economicus, we're actually Homo donans, the giving and receiving being. And we get to be that because of the way we're brought up through mothering. The mother and child, or whoever the caregiver is, it can be some other member of the family or even a paid caregiver, but the motherer, I call it, and the child interact. And in that interaction, it begins our humanity. That's how we become identified as a human being. And we have really forgotten all of that and sort of wiped it out of our consciousness because we're immersed in the economy of the market, where you only give in order to get back. I think when children are really small, infants, uh, they survive because somebody gives to them and satisfies their needs unilaterally. That is, the mother gives to the child and she doesn't expect back a profit from what she gives. She satisfies the needs because she wants the child to grow. And the child receives all of these free nurturing gifts and grows as it learns how to receive different kinds of gifts. And there's an interaction between the two that creates mutuality and trust in this giving and receiving. And the child also then imitates the mother and also learns to give. And the mother also receives. So there's this really nice interaction between mothers and children that has been studied now by a new infant psychologist who are looking at the beginning of life and seeing that children are not passive egotists like maybe Freud or Piaget thought that infants are not passive or solipsistic beings. They're very interactive, really, from the very beginning, and very intelligent. And so it's a different kind of interaction than we thought, because it's not like taking this non-responsive blob and trying to socialize it. It's a question of interacting in a human interaction from the very beginning with little children. And in that, the child begins to understand its own identity as it sees it played out also in the mother. And there, this idea of mirror neurons, which is where we simulate internally, unconsciously, what the other person is feeling and doing. And so the child knows in a certain way what the mother is feeling and doing, and the mother knows what the child is doing. And so it's already this interaction of identity or commonality between the mother and the child. And that is all of this is the core of what we are later as we grow up. In that, then, we have this is the basis of the gift paradigm, of the way we look at the world when we're doing things for satisfying needs, giving and receiving, and then learning to pass that on to other people. And I think this is really the core of our humanity and of how we interact, how we communicate. Then, unfortunately, as we grow older, we have to adapt to the economy of the market, where you only give in order to get back. And there you have an equivalence between what's given and what's received. And each person gives in order to get back, not to satisfy the need directly. It's not giving value to the other person. It's giving value to yourself when you exchange. And our whole economy is based on exchange, not on satisfying needs, but on this manipulative way of doing things, of giving in order to get back. Quid pro quo, do des. And in that, there's also a sort of a hidden agenda in which each person wants to get more than they gave. And so each one wants to profit off of the others. And so there's a negative built-in piece in all our human interactions when we're doing exchange. And then exchange is the basis of a paradigm that takes into account mostly quantification and competition, each one trying to be better than the other, the one at the top, command, domination. All of these things are involved in the exchange paradigm. And when we are teenagers, we have to adapt to this, because then we have to go to work in the market. And we begin to look back and see that our childhood way was really primitive, was not realistic, that somehow we have to give that up.
You know, one of the things that I think is really important in the exchange paradigm, identifying exchange paradigm and gift paradigm as very, very different, not just different choices of behavior, is that in fact the exchange paradigm in itself, just because you're engaging for yourself and not giving to the other in a direct relationship, in itself that paradigm interrupts our humanity. It doesn't have to be done to make a profit. If you want to do a fair exchange, you're still measuring, and you're still not giving in a simple, direct way to the other.
Right. That's
and
right.
once that's separated, we are separated from our humanity. And what follows is then all of the kinds of ways that the market and our relationships become acquisitive and actually harmful to each other.
Yeah, it's just really putting the equivalence between one product and the other, one person and the other as exchangers, as egotistical
givers,
interactors, rather than as other-oriented interactors.
And givers and receivers,
Yeah,
which are the human.
right,
And
right.
the separation from our human is we're the measurers. We're the, you know.
Yeah. And so what we need to do is realize that our humanity is based on this giving and receiving from the beginning. And there have been many cultures, and still are, that function according to the gift economy. And those indigenous cultures did not participate in a market as their main way of interacting. Many didn't have markets at all, and so and yet they functioned very well. Many of them were matriarchal, not mirror images of patriarchy, but mother-based societies with values of care, and so we have this potential to live in that way, and we are destroying it all the time through the market. And what we need to do is shift away from the market and into a gift economy that all of us are able to practice. I've been working on this gift economy idea for a long time, maybe 40 years, maybe even more. And in the beginning, I thought nobody was going to be interested in it, and I had a lot of trouble talking to people about it because they just turned away. And now, because of many factors, one is the internet and all of the gift economy on the internet, Another is the fact that our capitalist patriarchy is falling apart, and people can see that the economy that we are in, the market economy that we are in, is failing. For that, and because other people have come up with the idea of the gift economy also, there are lots of initiatives out there about gift giving and those that are not even, they don't even realize that they are, still are based on it, like something like Time Banks, which has a lot of exchange still involved and measurement, but is really based on gift giving. And there are many, many different kinds of gift projects. But the real piece that it's missing is the mothering part. And somehow they have not wanted or have not been able to go back to their roots in this and to look at that part of life as the basis of our humanity. And in fact, all of our theories of science, philosophy, and so forth have always left out mothering. And if they have put in mothering, it's been in ways that don't honor it as the basis of humanity. So I think that one of the main things we need to do now is to put mothering back into the gift economy. In fact, we just did a conference about that called The Maternal Roots of the Gift Economy, where people address that issue quite a lot.
It seems to me, without the understanding of how much we are shaped by and are actually givers and receivers, the searching for a gift economy becomes, it's almost against our nature, or it's something we have to invent rather than something that was the reason we have survived as human beings and as communities, and has shaped all the indigenous cultures.
Absolutely.
So suddenly you're sort of you're a vanguard who's searching for a new way, and you either are transcending your humanity or you're, being good people, or and that is not the spirit of the gift economy as you have understood it and in fact recognized it for us.
People say there's no gift giving, no unilateral giving, it's without an exchange, and they think there's no examples of that. Like the famous philosopher Derrida was really skeptical that there could be any free gift. And he just didn't see, as many or most philosophers have not seen, that mothering is already a free gift. And it's very commonplace, and it's the basis of our humanity. So in some ways, we've really gotten our idea of who we are backwards, because we see ourselves through the glasses of the market and patriarchy, instead of seeing ourselves through the glasses of the mother and the child. And we've all had mothers, even if we're not all mothers. If we wouldn't have survived if somebody hadn't taken care of us unilaterally when we couldn't give back anything except maybe a smile. I don't mean that we don't respond. I mean we're not exchanging in the market sense of do des, of I give so that you will give back to me, an equal product. And this really, the idea of market exchange has been used to interpret everything, and instead there is this first period of time that everybody has that's outside the market. And I think that is one of the reasons why the mothering has been discredited and the market has been overvalued. So in fact, through all these centuries, mothering has not been honored, when actually it was honored in the beginning, or in pre-history, so-called pre-his story, as they say, where the mother, the abundant mother, was the center of society. And in matriarchal societies, that still exists. And so we need to go back to that way of doing things, not as a question of domination, but as a question of satisfying everyone's needs. It's really obvious that patriarchal capitalism does not do that.
I think the other thing that we're taught is that when we measure things and when we exchange, we're civilized. We've moved into social relationships. That pre-exchange, we weren't really social because we didn't have to measure and control and do all that.
Yeah.
So it's almost been the definition of being civilized, of a patriarchal definition.
That's right.
Is that you don't just give to need. Your economy isn't connected to your relationships, to your culture, to your spirituality in some kind of a way that is around our humanity, but you separate it from that, and then you're really making progress because you're inventing it all.
Yeah.
And it is invented, and it is invented in denial of who we are.
Yeah, and
as human
it's
beings.
artificial.
Yeah.
Rather
Yeah.
than
Achieved.
organic.
It's achieved.
It's achieved. Yeah.
And the other is just who we are.
And I believe that also comes from a false imposition of masculinity, an artificial construction of masculinity, especially in the so-called West, where boys are taught that since they're not in the same gender category as their mothers, they should not be mothering or nurturing like their mothers are. And so they have to leave that childhood way.
They have to achieve a gender apart from being human, which is the giving.
Yes, that's right.
That's achieved as well.
Yeah, it's a masculine gender that's achieved in a way that you become like your
Other.
father or like some other male who is not nurturing and who uses violence or what I'd just say hitting as a substitute for giving, because hitting, you touch the other person like you do when you give, but you establish a relationship of domination rather than a relationship of solidarity and mutuality and trust, which you establish through gift giving. And so all of our patriarchy is based on that not gift, on that way of giving without giving. That is, giving hitting rather than giving nurturing.
And I think one of the things you mentioned was the fact that this is never recognized. That in fact, the theories, the sciences, the psychologies, the linguistics, actually even the anthropological studies of gift-giving cultures, all refuse to recognize unilateral giving, and this is absent from all the kinds of reflections and studies of all aspects of our society and how we work as human beings. I don't know if you want to mention. I don't know a few of them. Marcel Mauss.
Yeah, well, there are many. No, everything. Let's say is in denial of the mother or of the mother-child relation. Even studies of child development really don't take into account this interactive construction of our humanity that much. There have been these recent infant psychologists, Andrew Meltzoff, Steinbraten, Colwyn Trevarthen, and others, who have studied that relationship somewhat more, but they usually leave out the giving and receiving part. They talk about the interaction between mothers and children, but not about the nurturing interaction. And that's the main part of it. And I think it's also because the market way has a deep psychological root in some uses of language, in the categorization that language provides. And also, as looking at linguistics or linguistic philosophy, the mothering has been excluded from that as well. And this book is really about that, about the maternal root of language and the source of meaning. And so I believe, and I try to show, that language is all based on gift giving, that it's a collection of gift constructions, that even syntax is based on gift giving and receiving. Communication, as others also say, is co-communication, muni meaning gifts in Latin, so it means giving gifts together. Community is the same. So it's the circulation of gifts, but it's gifts based on unilateral gift giving and not on exchange. What happens is that you speak in order to be understood, in order for your words to be received. You don't have to have an equal exchange. The other person understands even if they don't reply, but they do often reply. And that, I think, comes from the imitation between mothers and children. That is, the child responds to the mother and reacts with a smile to her smile as imitation, not because they're obliged to do it. It's not a debt. It's not an exchange, but it's a turn-taking interaction in which there's also imitation and invention and creativity involved. And the same thing happens with conversation. With giving your words, the other person receives them, and then they take the initiative to be a giver in turn. And so that is how things really work, not as exchanges of equal according to equal.
Yeah.
It's according to the diversity of needs.
Yeah.
And the diversity of perceptions of each other's communicative needs.
Yeah. And it's even that turn-taking or the reciprocal giving or those relationships are just perceived through lenses of exchange in our society. We exchange ideas. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Every mutual interaction is really seen through exchange lens and mistaken in that way.
I call us homo donans, that is the giving being, rather than homo sapiens, or even worse, homo economicus, because we have to give and receive before we can know. As babies, we give and receive, and that is our knowing. And then as we grow, we continue to give and receive, and with our mothers, and then with the world around us. We receive all of our perceptions, and we interact, and then we give as well in many different ways, through gestures, through cries, smiles, and then we also have our physical giving, which we can't help but do, which is also the elimination of our wastes. And there's this cycle that we do, giving and receiving with the world around us, which we are ignoring if we look at ourselves as homo economicus or even as homo sapiens. We're not looking at ourselves that way. So first we're homo donans, the giving being, or homo donans et recipiens, which means giving and receiving being.
One of the things that I think is so important about your book, and in a way radical, is that understanding how basically we are homo donans, and how much that has been denied, how that the basis of our current social organization and structure is actually the denial of that, is an artificial, achieved social arrangement that is based on the denial of that those exchange-based relations, even if the aim is equal exchange, is still not giving and receiving where needed and as human beings.
Yeah.
And what that means is really, and I think this is what one of the things where a lot of the gift initiatives that are all around us don't realize is it doesn't really coexist. We can't really carve out a piece of giving that's a little broader than the family in an exchange economy, because the exchange economy is a denial of the gift, and it interrupts it at best. It destroys it, is parasitical on it, and actually creates scarcity.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to talk a bit about scarcity and abundance. I would like to say this is right now a scarcity creating system we're in. I think it's becoming pretty obvious that we are not in, this isn't a sort of a failure or a distortion of an abundance creating system we have right now. This is a system which in essence is interrupts the flow and interrupts what we can be as human beings. But this business of scarcity and abundance, I think, is important in terms of your theory.
Well, the whole system works on profit taking. That means on taking the gifts of everyone, either as surplus labor, so-called. That's what Marx talked about, the part of labor that wasn't paid for in the salary, or the gifts of nature, the gifts of housework that women do, and that it really, if you would look at it, the market is just a little spot on a sea of gifts, and the economy that we have takes those gifts and channels them to a very few people. Some gifts trickle down, but if they trickle down too many, then the people at the top can't control the people at the bottom, and so they have to do something with this extra gifts and this extra money value, and they throw it away. They do wars so they can get rid of it, so they have enough scarcity in the economy to control everybody. Because actually, if we had abundance, people could give and receive without a problem, and we would really probably move to a gift economy in an easy way. Actually, also at the other end of the economy, people help each other when they don't have anything. And that's how a lot of poor people survive, by giving and receiving outside the money economy. And in fact, money is really a big problem, I think, because it has that character of the not gift, which is, it commands, it evaluates, it's the standard for everything. And it's a lot like that male, non-nurturing standard. And I think the two standards interact with each other and broadcast into our minds this idea of a standard, of an abstract standard that we can never achieve really, even though we always have to try to do that, and that grades us, that says, are you an A or a B or a C? Are you poor? Are you rich? What are you along this continuum of evaluation, of a quantitative evaluation? And that really discredits the whole gift-giving way in which people are already valuable to each other. I mean, it's obvious that if you give to somebody, you value that person. That happens in the mothering way. Now, there are ways of manipulating that as well, and most of this manipulation, I think we learn it from the exchange economy. But there are ways of doing that as well. And I think it's to look at the big picture and see what is happening in the big scale and how much it influences our everyday act. And then in those acts of every day, we are all doing exchange all the time. And so we're connecting that to this big picture and broadcasting into ourselves a wrong way of interacting. That's a way of actually changing our maternal mother-child interaction into its opposite, into an exploitative relation instead of a mutually nurturing and satisfying relation that then is passed on to other people in a community and creates community relations among adults as well as among mothers and children. So we need to build our human community on our common mothering and giving and receiving economy, which men as well as women can do, obviously. So as Homo donans, we can survive on this planet. We can satisfy the planet's needs as well as our own, and other creatures as well, instead of destroying it, because now we're using violence and technology, which is not nurturing, doesn't create a human relation, to destroy the planet. And we're living in this magnificent life, this magnificent world. If you look at the moon, nothing's growing there. Look at Mars, nothing's growing there. Look at the Earth, it's full of life. So we need to honor Mother Earth and the mother in ourselves, all of us, men and women.
Mother Earth, Mother